Eddie Howe's Mags are finally back.
We are back, baby. We are fucking back. We're back. Yeah. Classic. We are back. We are back.
And whilst it's a very difficult trip down to Villa Park on Saturday, it's time to get into the first match preview of the season. Let's talk score predictions, let's talk lineups, and let's talk opposition. It's all coming up, Newcastle fans, so do me a favour and make sure you stick around. Welcome back to Black and White Banter, ladies and gentlemen, from a very sunny St James's Park. I did have a full professional setup stood in front of my tripod, but the shadows, the wind and everything else was blowing my phone left and right. So it's the selfie camera for this one with a fair bit of wind. But my God, does it feel good to be back talking about a football match in what has been a summer where that awful banner that was wafted down at Villa Park where we visit on Saturday all the way back in 2009 maybe feels a bit relevant. There has been a lot of sob on the Tyne because of this transfer window, thanks to a certain someone who I'm not going to mention, and that saga continues. But we will get into how that affects this team going into Saturday's game, which is the most important thing. We need to bury this transfer talk for a couple of days, but this is not what this video is for. He does affect the team selection, which I'll be forever frustrated to him for. He has affected the fact that we haven't been able to get players in sooner because of how long this has rambled on. Will he be a Newcastle player when that window slams shut on September the 1st? Who knows? But right now, Eddie Howe's Mags have one thing to focus on. Not only them, but us as a fan base, and it's Aston Villa on Saturday. I am going down. There will be match vlogs. Hopefully, there'll be a couple of fan cams and lovely interviews to go with that. So if you're new around here, Newcastle fans, do me a favour. Whack that subscribe button. It's been a crazy couple of weeks for Black and White Banter. Sky Sports News I was on Monday. That was mental. That was just another thing to tick off on this crazy journey that is this page that I only make through passion for my football club, and it just seems to keep evolving. So anyway, less about this page. That's all I mean to talk about. Aston Villa away. And I will say that this is a very unique match preview because we all know there is no form going into the opening day. Does that sometimes make it more exciting? Yes, it does. Have we recently played Aston Villa on the first game of the season? Very recently. If anyone remembers Sandro Tonali's debut and the scoreline that day, a lovely little 5-1. That was an amazing start of the season in St James's Park. But Aston Villa, here we go. First Saturday game of the season. We are the first kick-off of the day, 12:30. Nice and early start for fans going down. And look, it's a very, very difficult place to go. So let's start with tactics. How does Eddie Howe set up for this one? And I'll always deep dive and go into my analysis on this. Do I claim to be a football manager? No. Do I think I know more than Eddie Howe? Certainly not. But after looking at this, it is very fair for us to go back to that awful 4-1 defeat down at Villa Park back in April. Unai Emery hasn't changed system very much, and I've been keeping quite a close eye on how he has set up in his pre-season matches, as recent as wins away to Villarreal, a 4-0 win against Roma at Villa Park, which was a very impressive pre-season result for them, as opposed to Newcastle, who have yet to win a football match. That's dead and buried now. We cannot worry too much about that. Fitness is key. After 3, repeat. Fitness is key. Fitness is key. So I did deep dive that, and back then we were overrun, overpowered from the very first whistle all the way through. Yes, we equalised. Yes, we went in at half-time all level, but they blew us away, and rightly so. Ollie Watkins that day, he hit the post twice. They missed numerous chances. Nick Pope saved us a couple of times, and we lost the match. Probably one of our worst away days of the season in a big match for Champions League. And we learnt a lot from that. We learnt a hell of a lot from that. But before we get too much into Aston Villa and where they can hurt us, let's talk about what we can do to combat their team. Now, in that match, Jason Tindall was on the sideline. Eddie Howe was ill. Did we miss that? Yes. But do I think that we set up tactically wrong? 100%. And we changed it in the second half. We brought lots of bodies on, and it was too little too late. Where we were hurt at Villa Park last time was being overrun in midfield. They will play once again, as they have in pre-season, with Kamara and Tielemans, two very good players, with a double pivot in midfield. They then play with a front three on top of that, and then Ollie Watkins on top of them. A 2-3-1 formation. And we couldn't handle it. We were overrun. And yes, they've lost the likes of Asensio. He's not going to play at the weekend, but they've still got the likes of John McGinn, very tricky player. Rodgers. We are looking like we're going to take Ramsey off them at the time of recording this, which is great. We'll touch on him in a second with regards to team selection. But formation-wise, for me, for this one, I would be looking to go 5 at the back. And do I want to see Eddie Howe start the season away from his familiar 4-3-3 formation? No, not one bit. But do I think it's going to combat how Aston Villa set up? 100%, because for me, not much has changed since Villa Park in April. Yes, they've lost Marcus Rashford. He was a big threat that day in the spell that he was on the pitch. But generally speaking, I don't think our 3 in midfield and 4 at the back is going to help with how they overrun us. I really, really don't. Now on to Malik Chow. He's signed, he's in, he's training. That's nice to see. I think in any scenario where he's played and he's trained more for Newcastle, he should be coming in for this one. He would offer us the pace with the likes of Ollie Watkins, who, can I just say, on that day with Shea and Byrne, ran us ragged. Coming deep, coming short, running the channels. He was a nightmare and we couldn't cope with it. He was dragging our centre-backs out of position and other people were running into that space. Malik Chow's recovery speed and everything that he could offer that I've done on a separate video, please check it out, about why he's different to Byrne, Botman and Shea, could be vital here. But do I think Eddie Howe's going to start him? No, I don't. But I would still be very, very tempted to go 5 at the back of a Byrne, Botman, Shea. And if Malik Chow's got minutes in his legs, if he's impressed in training, he could come into that fray as well. I would go Kieran Trippier and Livramento, because Lewis Hall still hasn't had those minutes as a back 5, and that's just going to allow us to have a bit more protection when they overlap. And I'll share some images on the screen. The game started with Villa Park in April. They were straight out the traps, overrunning us, pressing high, which again we have to be on our tails with. And it just worked time and time and time again. And I do not think the 4-3-3 formation is the one to help with that. So what about the midfield and attack? Well, you know, our midfield at the moment for me picks itself. If Ramsey comes in, wow. Against his old side, if he's registered in time, which we fingers crossed, again, as I'm recording this, hopefully he will be. That's an interesting impact to bring on. I certainly don't think Eddie Howe in a million years would put him in from the start, but my God, do you have a point to prove against your old side less than, 48 hours after signing? But Tonali, Bruno, Joelinton, they pick themselves. But again, we do not have a striker, and I'm not going to ramble on about all my annoyances with Isak. That'll come with time once we get a resolution to this. We haven't got the bodies in we need. Johan Wisset is still being talked about. So that's going to change things. Does he go with Anthony Gordon through the middle? I think he will, because Asula has not done enough in pre-season, much to my disappointment, even though he's one of the only registered strikers in this squad to start away in an opening Premier League match of the season. And I'm really annoyed that I'm saying those words. But let's see what Eddie Howe does. I do think he'll go Anthony Gordon down the middle. Harvey Barnes on the left, that one takes care of itself. He brings goals, he brings a natural finishing, which we will need without Alexander Isak. And on the right-hand side, Anthony Elanga is brilliant. But in this match where defensive work is going to be key, I'm still yet to see Anthony Elanga from pre-season matches bedding into this Eddie Howe system. His defensive stats weren't great before he signed. It's going to take time. Jacob Murphy, for me, is the answer in this one. And Anthony Elanga gets us up that pitch in the second half, maybe at half-time. He's the impact sub in this match for me. Jacob Murphy's had a good pre-season, knows where the goal is, but his defensive discipline in this system is brilliant, and that's going to be much needed because Kieran Trippier is not getting any younger in terms of his legs. Now, the interesting setup in midfield that I think could work here is playing Joelinton higher. Tonali, Bruno, pivot. Joelinton can offer that aggression that we've seen so many times. It worked really well last season at Old Trafford when he supported the attack at every opportunity to hold the ball. Because one thing Anthony Gordon can't do when the going is getting tough in an away match is back facing the goal. Playing it to his feet, playing it high, him allowing people to run off him. That's not Anthony Gordon's style. All he wants to be on the shoulder. Get Joelinton higher at every opportunity. And Joelinton is pretty nifty in supporting attacks and allow Tonali and Bruno to drop a bit deeper. So it's a bit of a mixed formation for me at this one. I'm just thinking of ways to counter the fact that we don't fucking have a striker. And if I haven't said already, Alexander, cheers, mate. Right, anyway, before we get into some much-needed black and white banter stats, new for the 25-26 season is one to watch. Black and white banners, one to watch.
You know, like that one you should keep an eye on, like.
Yes, that's right. Ahead of the new season, I'm going to be picking one player from the match and the opposing team that Newcastle United, in my opinion, should be looking out for. And it goes without saying, after we got absolutely terrorised by them back in April, and I keep going back to that awful day at Villa Park, it's got to be Tielemans. Very good midfielder on his day. He absolutely pulled strings against the likes of Bruno and Tanane, who I will say, Bruno especially had a massive off day last time out. All of our midfield is sharp. Joe Linton looks really up for it in pre-season, really sharp, got in training early. Tonali, we know how good he is. Bruno, again, he hasn't come back with that weight that we saw last summer, where he really took a long time to get in the season. So I'm hoping we start big in this match. But Tielemans, keep him quiet. He loves to pull the strings and play balls between the lines, defence splitting balls, and we stand a chance. But let us know yours in the comments. And God, it's finally that time. My God, have I missed making this statement. It's time, you guessed it, for some lovely black and white banter. Stats.
Stats. Stats. Stats.
Yes, that's right. If you're a new subscriber around here and you haven't been watching my match previews for some time, I will let you know now I'm a stat geek and I love to chuck some at you before the big match. So let's just get into them, and I am starting positive. Aston Villa may have beaten us 4-1, if I hadn't already mentioned, back in April, but they have not won back-to-back matches against us since the 2004-2005 season, when a certain Kieran Dyer and Lee Bowyer had some certain handbags. Stephen Taylor caught the headlines that day as well for a lovely dramatic performance. So that's got to be a good omen. They do not do well in winning back-to-back matches against us. I will also go on record, black and white banter stats are normally the biggest jinx. Right now for the less positive, and I'm not going to claim to be the channel that just talks about all positivity. Newcastle United have lost 5 of their last 6 visits down to Villa Park, so it really has unfortunately been sob on the time. The only exception was that 3-1 win that I was there for, when Fabian Schär randomly scored twice. So it's not a place we like going to. And one to really keep an eye on for Newcastle, a player we've been linked with. I know I mentioned Tielemans being the one to watch, pulling the strings. Ollie Watkins, in 4 matches against Newcastle, has got 5 goals and 2 assists. It's only Brighton he's got more against. I talked about him pulling the strings. He is one that we need, early doors especially, to keep quiet. So here we go. It's that dreaded time. It's prediction time. And I really don't like doing these on the opening day because it's such a hard one to predict. I might have sounded positive in this video. Without a striker, like I say, I don't expect William Asula to play, and I'll be very surprised to see him playing. I just think Newcastle, it feels, as an attacking force, a little bit like damage limitation when you don't have that outlook. Because Anthony Gordon, for me, in a Newcastle shirt, playing up top, has done nothing to convince me that that's where he should be playing. Go and bang a goal in to prove me wrong. So I'm going to go for a score draw. I'm going to go for 1-1. I think it will be a good game to watch. I think there'll be lots of chances. But if Newcastle can come away from a difficult away match to start the season with no striker up top, no recognised official striker, I'd be relatively happy. It's going to be a really tough ask, though. It really, really is. Aston Villa, their crowd will be up for it. They've got a very good side with some good players, but they haven't recruited many players this summer. Let us know your thoughts down below, Newcastle fans. If you're going down to the game, I hope to see you there. And let's hope Eddie Howe's Mags can start the season with a bit of positivity, just as the transfer window looks like it's looking up. I cannot wait for the season to start. And as always, keep the faith. How are you, lads?